Well, I thought it was time for a good, just general update about things, the state of the channel and whatnot. And if you are a member, definitely check out in the member section. I just did an update about Oklahoma City day one. I just did a follow-up video, so definitely check that out over in the member section. And for those of you just curious, I'll probably do just a regular book review on this book. This is one that when I did a post about books related to the Oklahoma City bombing, one of you recommended this book, and thanks to the monies from memberships, I was able to go get this because this was expensive. So I got myself a copy, and then and that's basically how it works with membership on this channel. I go and do deep dives into some of this material, and hopefully it edifies all those involved. But I will still do just a regular book review of this in the future. But in the process of reading this book and going over all the information in it, I happened to be in Oklahoma City the other day for Mother's Day and visited the Oklahoma City Bombing Memorial. And I went fairly late in the day, so the actual museum was closed. I really wanted to go check that out. But I walked around the grounds of the memorial, and it is a very sobering experience. And it got me thinking when I was there looking around that it's one of the things that sometimes I'll hear this a lot from people that aren't into this kind of research and say, you know, like 9/11 and whatnot, and they'll say like, how dare you, do you have no respect for the victims? And it's exactly because of the victims of all the people whose lives were destroyed. That's why we want to get to the bottom of this. That's why we want to expose this corruption and bring those people to justice. And it takes people like us that become enough of a thorn in the side of the powers that be that eventually things get done. And if nothing else, even if absolutely nothing happens in a legal sense, when you expose a method of corruption like that, much like exposing a magic trick, if enough people know how the trick is done, then they're much less likely to employ that trick in the future. But I thought that was an important reminder, seeing that memorial firsthand. And I know this is not the intent of the people that made that designed that memorial, but the impact it had on me is this is exactly why people like us dig into these things and need to expose it so there is justice for the victims. So I think that's important to remember. I think sometimes we get kind of blinders on about and start looking at this purely from an analytical perspective. And don't get me wrong, I know there's definitely such thing as crisis actors and there's all kinds of intrigue, but that doesn't take away from the very real human cost that more times than not, the people doing this sort of thing do not mind real human carnage, as evidenced by a lot of the people that had lost family members at that memorial. And so I think it's important for us to remember that this is very real human carnage, and that should be the driving force behind why we try to unravel all of this intrigue, and not purely as an intellectual exercise, but so hopefully, eventually, there's justice. And like I said, if nothing else, then by shining light on some of this intrigue, it makes it much more difficult for it to happen in the future. And one of you recommended this book, and I haven't read it yet entirely, but there's an interesting thing about propaganda in this book that I wanted to read to you. But this is The Great AIDS Hoax, and this is kind of a forerunner to The Real Anthony Fauci by RFK. The Great AIDS Hoax was published in, I believe, 1989. Yes, 1989. So this was, I'm real excited to get really deep into this because this is from like early in the first formative years of the whole AIDS thing. And this guy has an excellent section about why and how we make up our minds. And I thought I would read this to you because I think this is good information to think about, because on this channel, I always get people chiming in, well, so-and-so had a great channel debunking that, or so-and-so had a great video that debunked this thing you said about this. And a lot of times when people are saying that, they're forgetting that there are liars out there. Now, not to say that, and that's one of the excellent things about this book, is she does a great job of pointing out the misinformation, the disinformation, the real information, the confusion, all about the Oklahoma City bombing, and doesn't just jump on any bandwagon of any theory. But this is why and how we make up our minds. Our mindsets are efficiency measures for getting through life happily and effectively without having to perpetually rethink situations and the course of response we will make. Mindsets manifest as habits or patterns in behavior. We are apt to alter our habit patterns and belief to conform to the views and practices of those with whom we identify, with those whom we admire and emulate, rather than with objective determinations of what truth decrees. Most of us have no criteria or rationale by which to arrive at the truth anyway. This is not a part of our learning, training, or conditioning. Therefore, it is difficult for us to distinguish between truth and mere propaganda. We intermingle the two without even a twinge of their incompatibility. Practically, our beliefs and opinions are manipulated and molded by powerful economic interests that effectively control our press, radio, TV, and other communication media, that control our government and its agencies, that ages ago cast the die under which we receive a compulsory brainwashing call to education, and that perpetually bombard us with propaganda to maneuver us into thoughts and actions that will serve these economic interests. And he continues, for all that we Americans have thus learned, an old witticism is most appropriate. 'Tis better to be ignorant than to have learned so much that isn't so. This is a plea to thoughtfully consider the evidence and questions posed herein on the merits rather than reject them out of hand. Most Americans operating on an emotional level with heavy tendencies to believe the worst and having been conditioned to beliefs and prejudices that the AIDS panic panders to will do just that, reject the facts out of hand. The author has some definite guidelines by which to consider all new information and outlooks and asks that you examine them. And then he goes on to break down some means by which to discern good information. But excellent book so far, and hope to get into that soon. I have a lot of stuff that many of you had recommended. Aberration in the Heartland of the Real by Wendy S. Painting, PhD. So I've started that. And also, kind of funny side note to this, an update is probably the best place for this. Many of you were asking, how I read some of this stuff, if there's any particular method. And, I have a quiet place in my house, and I turn off my computer and turn off my iPhone and just sit and read. And that's probably the best thing. And I don't necessarily worry about taking notes, hence the dog ears on the pages. I typically mark stuff as I'm going through. But I think the best advice I could give many of you that are curious about reading stuff to really understand it is, this is not a speed reading exercise. This is read something to understand it. And that means there might be times when you read something and you have to reread it a few times to really get the point of what is being said. And that's what I started doing, where I stopped trying to just read to get to the end of the book. You start reading to really absorb the information. And the more of that you do, you actually become a faster reader just by default. But I'll find myself going back again and again, which is why, again, I dog ear so much stuff, is I'll go back to something and reread a passage that I thought, oh yeah, I remember that. And then the other part that helps me research this stuff is I have no life. Outside of raising my children and having my day job, this is it. This is pretty much, this channel is my life. And by that I mean researching corruption, trying to, work out the mysteries of the universe, and mainly for my own reasons of I want to know the truth, even if I can't necessarily change it firsthand. I can change myself, and I can modify the life that I have access to. And sometimes that's all you need. You need enough people that recognize that there's corruption and try to do something about it, or at least refuse to take part in it. And right there you have the makings of a huge wave of human impact. So anyway, I've gone on too long, but you get the idea. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the update. I know little bit of an aside there to the Oklahoma City bombing memorial, but hope you all appreciate that. And again, thanks to all the new members, thanks to all the new subscribers. I appreciate your help with the channel. I appreciate your support. And again, that's what makes a lot of this stuff possible. So thanks again, and thanks for watching.